the friendsofhomerule.org website, which is a website that advocates how wonderful this charter is, also has a frequently asked question that anyone who goes to this website could pull up these frequently asked questions and see. The question is, the Home Rule Charter is mandating a cap on taxes. Can they do that? The answer is yes. The charter contains an annual limitation of 8% on the growth of real estate tax revenues, which the GSC finds to be a reasonable compromise between the county's need to generate adequate revenues and the protection of Luzerne County property owners. In the press, Rick Morelli, who's, I believe, the treasurer for the Government Study Commission, was quoted in the Standard Speaker on August 11, 2010, as saying, the key here is we capped tax increases. Jim Haggerty, also in the press, May 28, 2010, Times leader, when questioned by a resident about caps on property taxes, had also confirmed that there is a tax cap. They said they considered a tax cap of 1 or 2%, but they believed that this cap on taxes was a reasonable percentage or figure. As recently as October 17, 2010, Rick Morelli wrote a letter to the editor in the Standard Speaker. It was entitled, "Why You Should Vote Yes on Home Rule." And of course, as part of that, Rick Morelli tells you, the public can read the entire charter and the Government Study Commission's findings in the Standard Speaker today. I urge the public to please read it, understand it, and not be fooled by the anti-home rule campaign. When you read the charter and its findings, you will see the major changes to our form of government, such as cap rate on taxes. He listed, of course, a number of other items that really aren't relevant at this moment, but he does cite that they put a cap rate on taxes. Now, the fact is this: the people of Luzerne County, one of the major questions with any issue, whether it be a question for a candidate, a question for an issue like this that's on the ballot, is how much is it going to cost me? They know that that's a sensitive issue with the voters of Luzerne County. They know that that's an issue that will sell. And the sad part is that if this charter passes, it will be too late to do anything about there being actually no cap on taxes. This is the no spin. This is the truth. This is the black and white. In the Home Rule Law, which is the enabling legislation that created and allowed for the existence of the Government Study Commission, allowed the Home Rule study to be conducted, and allowed this charter to be placed on the ballot, clearly says in Section 2962, limitations on municipal powers, the bold-faced area at the bottom, the governing body shall not be subject to any limitation on the rates of taxation imposed upon residents. Now that's from Section 2962, Title 53. That is the law. Despite what the law says, they have been telling you differently. Not only does the Pennsylvania law say that they can't put a cap on taxes, but the Commonwealth Court has told them as well. Now, the interesting part about this case, and this case came out of, was actually a case that came out of Lackawanna County. Lackawanna County is one of the 6 Pennsylvania home rule communities, and happens to be, of course, our sister county. They are home rule. They had a cap on taxes in their home rule charter. They realized at some point that they weren't able to conduct government with the way they were spending money under this home rule charter, and they had to raise taxes by more than was allowed in the charter. You can see the language. This is actually language taken directly from the court's opinion, the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court, which is an appeal court, taken right from the court's opinion that says, this portion of the charter is thus in clear conflict with and in violation of Section 2962B of the Home Rule Law. So now we have Home Rule Law, the statute, and we have the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania telling you that they cannot put a cap on taxes. Now, just as some real quick background as to why the Home Rule Law would not permit home rule communities to put a cap on taxes. Back when the state legislature came up with the concept of different governments, they came out with a code and said, listen, if you are a community of a certain size, here is the one-size-fits-all government that you are required to have with your community being of the size that it is. But if you don't like that, if for some reason you believe that this one-size-fits-all government is not right for your community, we will allow you to come up with your own form of government. But here are some rules. One of the rules that we will require that you follow is that you could write up a charter, you could design your government however you want, but you are not allowed to put a cap on taxes. And the fact is, if you think about it, if government study commissions were permitted to recommend charters with tax caps, they could put together a complete piece of trash and sell it to the voters by telling them that they have capped their tax rate. They won't allow you to do that because they won't allow you to sell a piece of junk to the public that way. I guess the question that you should ask, if you ever come into contact with Mr. Haggerty, Mr. Morelli, some of the other advocates of the Home Rule Charter, ask them, okay, you came up with an 8% figure. Could you legally have set that cap at 0? If you're able to put a cap on taxes at whatever you see fit, would you have been legally permissible to put a cap rate of 0 or 1% or 2%? The fact is they can't answer that question because they are absolutely not permitted to put a cap on taxes. They argue that they have somehow twisted the language around in the charter and said this is a cap on tax revenue, not a cap on taxes. But the fact is, if it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck. And not only that, I just showed you where despite the fact they're telling you that they've used all kind of different tricks or whatever to come up with the language in the charter to get around this law, they've actually told the people that they've capped taxes. So let's go into one other area. This is called the Citizen's Guide to Local Government. This is a guide that's put out by the Governor's Center for Local Government Services. This is the January 2007 publication. You could actually find this online as well. Go to page 32 in that guide, and you will see the quote that I have there. Home rule municipalities may set rates higher than the limits in state law for property taxes and personal taxes levied on residents. This is right from the Citizen's Guide to Local Government. This is the truth. This is the no spin. This is the black and white. Let's talk about some other charter untruths. Just briefly, the controller. Here's what they say. They tell us in the report of findings and recommendations that the recommended charter strengthens the controller's status as the county watchdog and provides the controller with enhanced tools to carry out this watchdog function. Here again, they talk the talk, the charter doesn't walk the walk. They're telling us that they make the controller stronger. They tell us that they provide the controller with enhanced tools. The fact is this, they provide the controller with no more tools than the controller already had, and in fact, they remove the important tools that the controller had. One of the tools that the controller has now is the controller has his or her own solicitor. Under the charter, the controller would be stripped of his or her own legal counsel. The most important way that, or the most important tool that the charter removes from the controller is the controller's ability to not pay, to stop payment on checks and to not pay bills. And if you're familiar with county government, certainly over the last few years, you would be familiar with the fact that that function of the controller's office has been used to success and has provided the public with the transparency that should be in government and the accountability, and also provided government with checks and balances that are required. Because now if the controller sees a bill and has a question about a bill, and if the controller is not getting the answers that they need, that he or she needs, the controller could just stop payment. And I could tell you from personal experience, being the county solicitor for the past, since 2009, that I've seen that power used to great success over and over again, because nothing gets the parties to the table quicker, including vendors, administration, row officers, and the courts, quicker than the controller not paying a bill. That power is stripped under the charter. The enhanced tool that they claim that they've given to the controller is a tool that every member of the public has, and that is the power to request records under the Pennsylvania Open Records Act, and that tool is certainly not something that the controller would walk into that office without anyway. The controller under the current form of government has the ability to subpoena records. Under the charter, there is absolutely no clear right of the controller to subpoena. And I should tell you, despite the words, the charter using the word subpoena underneath the section of the charter where it discusses the controller, if you read very closely, it says that the controller may serve subpoenas as provided for by law. And the fact is, because this charter supersedes the county code, there is no law that gives the controller the right to subpoena anything. So don't let them fool you by pointing out in the charter where the charter mentions the word subpoena in the same section with the controller, because that basically means nothing, because the charter supersedes the county code. And if you read the different sections of the charter with regard to its effect on the county code, it clearly says that it supersedes the code. And actually home rule law says the same thing. Just to wake everyone up, this is how I view the current controller's office, watchdog, viewing everything. Here's how we view the controller's office under the charter. And I have to tell you, the only reason I've used this picture is because I Googled dogs with no teeth, because I wanted to show the current controller as being a dog with a set of teeth, and I wanted to show you the new controller's office with no teeth, and this is what came up, and I just couldn't not put this picture in here.